Okay, so it's lesson 9, part 2. We're going to move on to our checkout. Just going to show you how you can look in the Azure portal to get an idea. If you go to cost management and billing, and you click on your subscription, you got this orange bar and it says to check your remaining credit, visit this link. So it typically actually shows you here how much you've used. A few people I've looked at, they're kind of in the 60% of their range. But if you click on this and click check your balance, it should show you how much of that $100 US credit you have left. Again, you just click on your go to cost and billing, click on your subscription, and then you'll see a chart here. Most of these services we're not using, but we can use that link to check your history. See if this page ever loads, right? So it'll show you your $100 and how much you've used. Okay, so here's what we're going to do with our checkout. First, we're going to get our music store checkout to actually work, and then we'll see if we've got time to add the Stripe payment afterwards. Yep. Yep. Actually, yeah, there is one thing we should also do, sorry, before. Right now, if I add the same item to my cart again, so here I've got this cake B-sides. Yes, I did. Right now, if I add the same item, it actually is put it in as a separate item. Right? So what we should be doing when we add to cart is we should be checking if this item's already in the cart. And if it is, instead of adding it as a new item, we want to increment the count. So Manny, we could add the ability here, but I think what we'll just do is I'm just going to leave the quantity so you can just add another one, but we'll have it increment instead. I'm going to remove this one. So I don't want this result. Yep. Yeah, it would remove all of them. I know it's not completely the way a shopping cart would work, but we've only got so much time. But I do want to modify the add to cart a bit. So right now, add to cart always creates a new item with a count of 1. So before we add the item, we want to check, does this album already exist in the user's cart? And if so, we just want to increment the count by 1. We don't need to create a new item. We're just going to update the existing record. So in add to cart, so if item is already in the user's cart, increment count 1. I'll actually do it this way. So we're checking for this album. This user's cart. So this creates an error here because it says cart's already declared. We can just take out the word cart here. We're not declaring it, we're declaring it here. So then we'll have an if statement. If something else. So if we try to find this album in the cart and it's not there, we'll just say if cart is null, then we're going to create a new one. So I'm going to move this blue block of code for creating a new one into that condition. Yes. So this create and add is going to go inside the if statement. So if this album is not in the current cart, create a new item with a count of 1. Otherwise, we just need one line of code here. What will we do instead if this album's already in the cart? Instead of adding a new one, what will we do? Yeah, so we just increment count property plus plus. Let's just add 1 to it. And then save, instead of doing an add, save will do an update. And it just updates this property from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 9 to 10, whatever. So, man, it's not as convenient as what you're suggesting. It would be better if they could manually control the exact quantity, but ultimately we'll be allowing them to, in effect, update. So not super convenient. If I have 3 and I decide I want 2, I would remove it and then add it to cart twice. So we'll try this. And now I should be able to put an item in my cart, see it show as a count of 1, and then I should be able to hit add to cart again, and that count should go from 1 to 2 instead of that item being added as separate items. So we'll try this. I'll go back here, start my cart again. So before that change, when I added, I'll add something brand new to the cart, and then I'll add the same item again. So here's our current cart. I'll go to the store. I'll pick different albums entirely. So I'll add this album. So now I've got 1. So now I want to put the same album in my cart again, and hopefully this count is going to increment from 1 to 2, and the price will go up by another $8.99. So I'll just go back. I'm going to add the exact same album a second time. So this time, instead of creating that all over again, my count has gone from 1 to 2. My price has gone up. If I want to add 1 more, I can add it again. And now I got 3. I recognize this is probably not in the end, it's not the best user experience, that they can't control the quantity. For now, it's going to have to do. It's at least functional. So now we want to write a checkout method. So there's 6 tables in our database. We've worked with 4 of them, right? We've worked with the genres, we've worked with albums, we've worked with artists, and now we've worked with the cart table. The other 2 tables we haven't even looked at. These are the most important tables in the whole site. It's the whole reason the site exists. We need to interact with our order, which has an order ID, a date, and billing information. We don't have separate billing and shipping information in this site, but we've got information about our customer. And then we have order details. This table closely resembles the cart table, right? When we check out, we're going to take items out of the cart table and put them into the order detail table. Which order is it? Which albums did the user buy and how many? And how much did they pay for each album? We want to record the price because the price might change, right? If I pay $8.99 today, and next week that price goes up to $9.99, when I look at my order, it needs to show the price I paid today, not the current price in the future. So when somebody orders, we need to record the item, the price that they're actually paying for each item at the time. So let's see, how do we want to do this? The checkout view we can scaffold. So we're going to need we don't need a separate controller. So we can write a checkout method here. Checkout. We're going to have both a get and a post. Get will display our checkout page, and the post will actually save the order to the database. And then we'll take them to display a receipt. Let's just start this way. We'll just return a view called checkout. And we can actually use scaffolding to build the page. We don't have to build this whole page manually. So if I right-click my checkout method and add a view, we get our little template window. So our view name's called checkout. What template do we want here from this list? Are you using the community edition of Visual Studio? Click on help and about, and it'll tell you what version you have. If you go to help, the help menu, and about Visual Studio, should say right up here. Okay, that's why. It's okay. If you have community, you can just go down to your views store, right click and choose add view. And you get the same screen. Okay, so you can get to it either way. This is just a shortcut because when I go through here, it automatically names the view tied to my method name. So which template do we want here? Create, delete, details, edit, empty, or a list? Yeah, Omar, why do we want to create? Right, we need a form to get the customer information. So we're going to create, we want an empty form, and this form will be built based on which model? Yeah, the order model. So this way, Visual Studio will generate a form with all of the fields for the customer information. So we want a view called checkout using the create template and the order model. You could do this all yourself, but it's much easier to let Visual Studio build it for us, right? So we'll add that view. We need to build because we've added a new method to our controller. When you went to add view, you don't see this drop down for model. You have to change, well, when the template is empty without model, it's gray. When you choose create, it still doesn't come up. Can you type in it? If you can, type order. Yep. So now we've got a checkout page. So when I go back here now, click my checkout link. It now takes me to our form. And this form's modeled on the order table. Now, obviously, we want to change some things here. We also want to require authentication. If users aren't logged in at this point, we're going to make them log in. So what things should we change with this form? Randall? Okay, yeah, so we want to require authentication. What else should we change? Do we need everything that's on here? What's one thing we can remove? Yeah, username and email, we're going to automatically populate those. We don't want to make the user give us that information. We already have it. What else should we change or remove? Date and Brando? Yeah, we may not want them to put in the total. I'm going to buy $1,000 worth of music and decide here's my total. Right, there we go. So basically, the first two sections and the last two sections we want to remove. We're going to change this button to say pay now. And we should use display names for our labels, right? We can put some spaces in here so it looks better. So on our checkout, the first two sections, so starting on line 18, and your line number should be identical to mine. So line 18 to 32, that's the order date and username. Let's get rid of those. We'll populate those automatically in our controller. So we'll delete those. First two form groups. And at the bottom, the last two form groups are the email and total. Again, we're going to auto-populate those, so we'll delete those last two form groups for email and total. We'll change our button to say now. We'll make it blue like our other buttons, and we'll get rid of this div at the bottom. We don't need it. We've removed the first two form fields, the last two form fields, and restyled the button. Now it looks like this. That's better. If we go into our order model, we can set display names for first name, last name, and postal code. That'll put a space in. We want to do it in the model because not only will that make it better on our checkout form, but then our order details page will also have those fields with a space in the names. So I'll go to my models and order. And we've got first name, last name, and postal code properties. I'll just give these friendly names that have a space in them. One for first name, one for last name, one for postcode. This should be simple. You all did this in your exam review last week, right? Didn't they? If I refresh one more time, I should get spaces in those labels. Now my page is still public. So I'm logged in here over in this browser. My session's still active, but I haven't logged in. But right now I can go to the cart page, which I shouldn't be able. Oh, I just add something. Did wipe out what was in my cart because it's a new session. But we should require authentication on this page. We shouldn't be able to get here until we've logged in. So what do we need to do? We only need one line. How do we do it? Right, we'll just call authorize. Thank you, Rakil. Above our checkout method. Now we're going to have to log in order to do a checkout. So now as a logged in user, I can go to checkout and notice our model with fixed our names. So we've got spaces here. And so I can check out here, but in this browser, now it wants me to log in. So this is what we want. So there's our get method. Now we need to write our post method. So when the user fills out the form and clicks pay now, we actually want to save their order to the database. So again, this method is going to require, as Raquel said, the authorize. I declare this method as HTTP post. We also want to check that our form has not been subject to a cross-site scripting attack. So we're going to validate the anti-forgery token. We've had this before, but this has been done by the scaffolding. We've never done this ourselves. If we look at our albums controller that we built, scaffolded a long time ago, if we look at our create method, right, we've got an HTTP post and validate anti-forgery token. So that says it's a post method and we're checking for a cross-site scripting attack. Our method is still called checkout, but this is the get version, this is the post version. Sorry? Yeah, because we use this anytime we have a form, and almost always our forms are doing post. So yes, so when we scaffolded it, right, remember we scaffolded it, so we'll see a couple things at the top, right? When we scaffold a form, when we say create, it automatically, Visual Studio automatically generates that token in our form. If we had built this page ourselves with no scaffolding, we would want to put that line in, but scaffolding will do it automatically. So the best practice is anytime we have a form, make sure that's there. And anytime we have a post, yes, we should be validating that token to prevent cross-site scripting attack. So here, rather than, here's kind of a neat thing. With our form post, we have this form collection. This is like the post array in PHP. This will give us all of the inputs on the form. We don't have to specify them one at a time. If we add a new field in the form, it's automatically included in this parameter. So here's what we'll do. Create a new order, populate it. This is way easier in .NET MVC than it would be in PHP. We've got 8 inputs on our form. In PHP, we would need to map each input to some kind of variable. Right? And if you misname them, we lose that value or it throws an error. Here, we're going to create a new order. And create a new order object. And to populate it, we use this super awesome method called try update model. This will automatically take this parameter, this form collection, and map the first name property to the first name property of the order, the last name input to the last name. We don't have to map one field at a time. So if we change our form, we don't have to change anything. It does it automatically. We just have to make sure that our field names match the field names in the database. But when we scaffold, we know those names will match. Now, there are the 4 values we had in our form that we took out, right? Username, email, order date, and total. All of those properties we want to automatically populate. We're going to auto-populate fields that we can. Our order.username, just get from the user identity. The order email is the same. We use date.now. Get the date. And then the total we don't have, right? We calculated it on the cart, but we calculated it in the view. We need to actually save the amount of the order. So we're going to need to write a quick query to actually calculate that value. So here's what we've got to do. We've got to get all the items in the cart. And then for each item, we have to multiply the quantity times the price and then keep that as a running total, right? That'll tell us how much is the total order. The great thing is we can use link syntax and we can actually do this all in one line of code. We can do all of this math together. We don't need a loop and a running total. Link will let us do it together. Hang on. First we'll have to get the list of items in their cart. We're going to go and get the list of items for this user. Then we can query this list from the list of items in this user's cart. This will multiply for each item in the cart. It will multiply the count times the price. And then we can, in one line, add all those values together, which is really neat. So we could have done this in our shopping cart controller. We could have run this same query and just passed that value in the view bag. Our order total is equal to our order total variable. So now we can save the order. And then we need these cart items anyway because we need to save the order details. We need to save each album as a new record attached to the order. We're going to add our order. We call save. So this will generate a new order in the order table. We then need to loop through the items and save each one to the order detail table. going to create a new detail record for each one of these. Now it's important we save the changes here, because until we save the main order, we don't have an order number. We can't save the details because that's the foreign key. You need to save the main order first and generate an order ID, because that order ID has to be attached as a foreign key to each of the child records. So there's an ID, our album ID from the cart. Quantity is going to come from the cart. It's a little bit weird. The database Microsoft gave us. In the cart table, they call the property count. In the order detail, they call the same property quantity. They didn't use the same name in the two tables. And then the unit price is equal to the item.album price. So this will create a new detail record for each item in the cart. And now we need after our loop is done, we're going to add each one of these to the list of order details, but we're not going to save it till the end. We can then save all the details in one transaction. We just call. So this should create an order, generate an order number, create a list of order items, and then save all of those items to the order detail table. We're still getting a red line because we have no return statement. All of this is interacting with the database. Where should we take the user? What do you expect to see after you give a website your money? What do you want to see as a customer when this is all done? Yeah, we want to see a receipt page. And what's the most important thing on that receipt page for you as a customer? Yes, so the confirmation of the receipt, what value is going to be most important to you? Manny? Could be. I would suggest something else might even be more important. You've given this company money with no guarantee you're going to get your product or service. So what do they need to show you that's really important to you in case you have any problem getting the thing you've just paid for? Yes, but what value on that invoice do you need? Yeah, the order number is going to be really important, right? Because that's the reference for the customer. If they don't get what they bought, they need to contact the company and say, here's my order number. So the company should be able to see everything that was bought. So yes, we need an invoice, a confirmation, or receipt, but we need to make sure it should show everything, but this is the really critical value, is this order ID. That's what a customer is going to want. So once this is all done, show the confirmation receipt invoice page. We'll redirect the user when this is all done. We're going to redirect them to orders, details, parameter, We can scaffold an orders controller in views. So then we'll get a list of orders and we can click the details and see everything on there. So we can use scaffolding for this. So when we're done, show the user their order. Not sure if we need this slash here or not. So let's try this. Not totally done, but we want to see if we get a 404 error, then we can look in the database and see if the order actually gets saved. And there's a couple of other scenarios we need to account for here. So I'll go back to my cart where I'm logged in just because it's kind of convenient. So I'll go to checkout. So if this works, we'll get a 404 error on order details, but we'll see an order number in the URL, hopefully. May take us a couple of tries to get it right. All right, well, that's good. It actually, it took me to store order details. We're going to have to change that to redirect. But if we look in the database now, both order and order details. I've got to put this in square brackets. I don't know. This one because order is a keyword. So now check my order. Here's my order, timestamped right now, gave me an order number. Recorded my total is 6293. And it was 315299. So there should be 4 order detail records. Actually 5, right? Here were all the items in my cart. So it saved my order properly now. My redirect isn't quite right. So instead of take out the slash. We'll take out the leading slash. And now let's just scaffold out an orders controller with all the views. And then we can modify our order details view. So in my controller, I'll just right click and add a new controller. We'll pick MVC5 with views. Everyone knows how to do this by now. Pick our order model. And just click add. So this will build the orders controller with all the create, read, update, delete methods and all the views. So I'll scaffold. We want to authorize everything here. We'll just authorize the whole controller. All the methods are private. Right? Until you're logged in, you can't have any access to orders. You want to see your order history? Well, you got to log in. So now we have a details method. I'm going to just go here and see if I can see my order details. We'll need to modify the view a bit. Here's my order. So we need to modify this a little bit before it's totally useful as an invoice receipt confirmation page. It's a start. What changes should we make here? Rando? Okay, could be. Typically, though, this is where it's going to get shipped to, so we might want to see it. Although we don't necessarily have to show both the email and username. What else would you change here? Add, edit, or delete from this page. There's, to me, two very important things that are not here. Right, so what did I actually buy? Right? So we can basically take the code from our cart page and kind of replicate that at the bottom here. It should show what did you actually buy. And then what did we say is the most important thing that they want to know that right now isn't visible? Right, the order number is in the URL, but it doesn't actually show up here. We probably want to print it like right here. And then we can take these things out. We also now have, this is also useful, right? We actually have a list of orders. So we could give the customer a link here that says orders. It shows them a list. We just need to filter it based on their username. So when I'm logged in, I see my orders, but nobody else's. The view's already here, so that's going to be pretty easy for us to do. So then I can go back. Any site where I can buy online, I should be able to see a list of all of my previous transactions and then the details. So we can do this pretty quickly. And then we'll have to deal with one other issue, and we'll see if we've got time to address payment. So let's open up this order details view. So in here, I'm just going to add right in the heading my order ID. I've got an H4 tag, so it's going to be bigger text right at the top. So we can just grab that property from the model. So it'll say order number here, right? Because that's my reference. If I don't get the right products, I never get anything, I need that number to go and call the music store. So you took my money, you didn't give me the right items. Yep, I just added this. So that's line 11 in the H4 tag. So now for the cart, we can actually copy and paste from our shopping cart page into this page. So we'll go back to our shopping cart. And I'm just going to collapse my table, make it easier, and I'm just going to highlight it and copy it. We'll paste it in, and then we can modify it a bit, like we don't need the checkout button anymore, for example. So I'm just going to copy that whole section of code, go back to details. I'm going to get rid of this, these links down at the bottom. I'll just paste it in. I'm going to get rid of the last row because that has our keep shopping and checkout. Well, they've already checked out. So those options make no sense anymore. My remove from cart button, well, that can be gone. They can't modify it now. The order's already paid for. So I'll get rid of that last column. We'll get rid of our cart total. Our total already shows up. It's giving us an error here. Instead of model, it's got to be model dot order details. This is the child of our order. So our shopping cart was based on the cart model. This page is based on the order model. And the order model has a child called order details. Get rid of this. And this count has to be, is now quantity. And price is the unit price. We don't want to show the current price of the product. We want to show the price the customer paid when they bought it. Let's try this. We may have to change a couple things. We may get a couple orders. Okay. Line 116, heading. Okay, we're just going to hard code our headings. Album. So there's our order detail. We've got our number. We can see all the items. We can even still go click on the product if we want. And we've removed the buttons from the bottom. We don't need them here because the order's finished. The user can't change anything at this point. So I just hard coded these to album quantity price. We changed this to model.order details, and we changed these two fields to quantity and unit price. So the only other thing we need to do is we want to add a link to the main order list, but we need to filter that index method by username. I shouldn't be able to see anybody's orders except my own. Right now, orders shows everything, shows all the orders. So actually, let's go to our layout file, and we'll add a link here. If the user is authenticated, doesn't matter if they're an administrator, but if they're authenticated, let's show an orders link. Call the index of a brand new orders controller. So when I'm logged in, I have a link that says orders, where I can see my order history. As an anonymous user, it makes no sense to see that link. We can't display orders to somebody when we don't know who they are. So we'll just add this in our layout file. So when I'm logged in, I get an order list. When I'm anonymous, right, I don't see it. Once I log in, that link becomes visible. So the last thing we need is we just need a simple where clause on this page in the method. So I'm only seeing orders that are attached to this email address. That's my account. I can't see anybody else's. So we'll go to our orders controller. So in the index view, we just add a where here. We'll just add the where clause to our order list. So instead of seeing everybody's orders, we can only see orders attached to our username. Now there's one scenario we also haven't dealt with here. I checked out when I went through the whole process with being logged in. We haven't figured out what happens when I shop anonymously and then log in at the checkout page. because my cart items are attached to this random ID. That's no longer, so then we have a disconnect, right? I've got items in the cart with this random ID, but we need to attach them. We now need to move them from a random ID to my username. So we'll have to take care of that scenario. So now when I click on orders, this list should get much shorter. So these are the orders now attached just to this username. There are two, the one I just made and the one from Monday. And now we can just get rid of these. We can get rid of, create, edit, and delete. You can't modify these things. They've been paid. So the only link we want to show up is details. So there was my order from Monday. Here was the order from today. So I can just change the heading, say like your order history, and I can hide the links on the index view. So if I go to orders index, just change the heading so it's more meaningful. I'll delete the create, delete edit, my little separator, and delete. The only link on this page will say details. And I could probably, I could do some more formatting. I don't necessarily need the username and the email. We know these are my orders. Some of this text is wrapping. I want to make it a little shorter. Maybe I'll just get rid of the email and username columns. We can keep them, we can remove them, doesn't matter. There, now it doesn't wrap anymore, fits better, nicely in one line. Well, we don't want them to be able to delete. We probably actually should remove the delete method from the controller. Because if I went, if I went like this, /delete, that'd be an issue. So we probably actually should, in our orders controller, probably a good idea, go to our two delete methods. So here's the get and here's the post. Right? And there's our validate again, was on your right? So we can actually just remove both of these. Yep, or we could change the role. But typically we never want to delete an order. We might status it as canceled, but if you delete it, the data is actually gone from the database, which we typically don't want. We'd at least want a record that an order was made and canceled if we were allowing cancel. So I'm actually going to remove those entirely. Or you also could change the role. That would work as well. And now we've got a working order history. And yeah, there's more formatting and things we could do on here. I'm not going to worry about it for now. But we do need to deal with the scenario here. I've shopped anonymously, so the items in my cart have some random session ID. But now when I log in, I need to attach them to my actual username. So I go back and shop. So I add this, but I'm anonymous. When I check out and identify myself or register, right, so here's my latest. Right, I've got another anonymous card ID. I now need to attach it to my login. So we need one more method in our shopping cart controller. Close a couple of these things. So in my store controller. So in our store controller, you're going to need a method called migrate cart. Attach anonymous cart to an authenticated user once they log in. So in this case, this is when we have some random string as our cart ID. But now our user's logged in. We want to convert their cart ID from a random string to be equal to their username. We're going to use this is null or empty. Our session variable isn't null, and our user's been authenticated. Close this up for a minute so we can see. My bracket's wrong here. So we have a session variable and our user is logged in. And if these two values are not equal, we want to update the cart in the database, and we want to update the session variable to all use the username. Oops, sorry. We'll get the current value that's in the session. And then we're going to update these. We're changing it from a random string to the username for each one of these items. We're going to save that. In this case, there's two things we need to change. We need to change the session variable, and we need to change the cart ID in the database for all of the items in the user's cart. So this way they can shop as an anonymous user, but once they log in, we're going to update both their cart and the session variable to their username. So we need to call this method when they start to check out. As soon as they identify themselves, we're going to move their items from random identifier to their username. So I'm going to call this method. Right now, our get checkout is really short. All we do is return a view. We'll call migrate to their username. We'll just call this before loading the checkout page. We'll try this, and then I think we will call it a day. I will show you the tools if you want to do Stripe integration, but I think we're going to run out of time for it. I'm just going to build. And what I'm going to do is I want to shop as an anonymous user, hit checkout, and then log in, and we'll check the database and see if our items get moved from our random string to our username. That's the goal. So in Firefox, this Firefox window, I'm anonymous. So I've done a rebuild, so my cart is going to be empty again. I've got a new session. So I'll go back, we'll shop for something else. I'll add maybe an album I haven't added previously. So I'll add Jimi Hendrix and Soundgarden. So I'm anonymous. Right, we can check my card ID. So here it is, starts with 01AC. So when I go to checkout and I'm forced to log in, these items, as soon as I log in, should get updated from this card ID to my username. Because when I click checkout, the first thing that's going to run is that migrate cart method. So we'll try it. It asks me to log in. Okay, I'll actually maybe make it as a new user. Why not? Make a new account. Okay, hang on. So I'll go back to my cart now. So my items are still here. So notice they haven't been updated yet because I haven't been able to load the checkout page. I had to log in first. So now if I go to checkout, if I run this query again, these two items should get updated to my Friday at gc.ca. Which they are. Right? So once I identify myself, we're moving those items and attaching them to my username. So I can check out now, but now those items are attached to my username. So if I don't check out today, I can come back later tonight. Those items are still in my cart if I log back in as this user. And I'm logged in with a totally different account. Okay, my redirect still isn't right, so I'll have to figure that out. And now here's my separate order. And if I go to my order history, I only get this order, right? We don't see the ones I made under the customer account. We only see the ones attached to this account. I'm just going to check why that redirect isn't working. I'll talk about Stripe for a minute. The redirect should be right, seems to be working in my Monday repository. I'll just check. Controllers, store. Should be redirect to action, details in my orders controller. That will redirect us. Rather than redirecting to a path, it's calling the details method in the orders controller. That will fix our redirect. Okay, so we did not get time to do Stripe, but I do have a minute to just show you, if you want to try and integrate it, how to do it. All of the links are on Blackboard for you. Bear with me for a second. So if you want to take a stab at Stripe payment, in week 9, I've given you the sign up link. They have code library for integrating it with ASP.NET. Now, this tutorial uses .NET Core, but it's still pretty similar. You install the Stripe package. So you go to NuGet Package Manager, search for Stripe, install the package. That will add the Stripe code library to your project. You can just do it. Once you've signed up for Stripe, in the panel, much like with Google, there will be a secret and publishable key, just like we did when we were using our Google authentication. Google, right, calls it an ID and a secret. Stripe calls it a secret and a publishable key. In our store method, we can write a charge. Our store controller, we write a charge method that creates a new customer and creates a new charge. And then we basically put this payment form, this little form, right into our view. And we include our publishable key. The public key is here. And then what the order total amount is, we have to supply that in cents, not in dollars. So notice for a $5 charge, the amount's 500. So you can try this. If you want to see it, if you look on YouTube in my lesson from last year, from winter, so if you look, the course code's COMP2007. If you look in the lesson 10 video, we did it in class. So you can always try to do it, and the code is on GitHub. So you can take a stab at trying to integrate it. Okay, the documents. And the full documentation is here. So here it is in virtually any language. So here's how to do it in .NET. They kind of explain it. Here, if you want to see like all the methods and errors and stuff, their documentation's quite good on how this works. So you can take a stab at this. So next week, what we're going to do is we're going to start with unit testing. So we're going to take 2 weeks to do unit testing. We're not going to see any change in the end product of the music store, but we're going to have to refactor a lot of the code. So under the hood, we're going to be changing a lot of stuff so that our app can run live, or we can run unit tests against it. It's going to take us 2 weeks to implement that. Remember, assignment 2 part 1 is due Thursday at 5. Okay. And then you'll have 2 more weeks to implement your unit testing, and then 1 more week to build your web API. Okay, so make sure that you've submitted by 5 o'clock next Thursday. We will have a quiz next week about some of the stuff we did this week. Okay. We will. Just keep in mind, every quiz we have means the final exam is worth less marks, right? So more low stakes is better than fewer high stakes in terms of the pressure.